Hey everyone, welcome to Strictly Nerd. I am Brian Pruitt.
I'm Eric Matos.
And today we are doing something a little bit different. We're just fresh out of the Ekman's Toy Show out in New Braunfels here in Texas. And one of the artists I met there, Chris Navarro, asked me to take a look at his independent book and kind of review it. And because we're all about the nerd culture and, you know, spreading the word, especially locally, because there's not a huge culture here, I guess. We're going to make ourselves really tall. But so I was like, why not? We'll see how it goes. So I looked at it, and then I had Eric, being an artist and comic book person himself, look at it, and we're just going to kind of touch base on a few things. And if you have any other questions or anything like that, I'll put any information. You can shoot me any information to the email, and we'll connect you with Chris if you wanted to look at his books, or you know, if you have any other additional questions that maybe we don't answer. So the book is Chicano Superstar. First thing about the book that I noticed is it's a niche market, or niche market, if you want to be that guy. The subject matter, as far as, you know, animorphs and things like that, they're very, very
particular, I guess. It's particular to a certain culture.
Yeah, and so we looked through it, and so overall, you know, as part of that niche market, you could pick up on a lot of things, but we're going to talk about some of like the technical aspects and things that we noticed throughout the book that kind of caught our eye. Eric, I think you had the first one that you had picked out.
It was pretty, like, the main thing that I noticed about it is there's the art's not bad, and it looks like that the artist has actually been drawing for a while, and he has a certain style that he has become accustomed to. I think the main thing that I think would need work in this comic is consistency between frames. A lot of times you have to be able to tell there's one certain character, and you tell that, you know, from this frame to this frame, or from this page to this page, that it's the same character, and it kind of gets lost a little bit in here. And I think that it's still, like, it looks like there's a lot of potential for the comic, but like he was saying, I think the biggest thing about this comic in general that I have found when looking through it and reading through it is that it's very specific to, I guess it's a Hispanic culture, but it's something that, you know, I can't associate with, obviously, so.
And we definitely picked up on, it is an independent book, you know, he gets it printed himself, everything like that. So there are, you know, things that are, you're trying to save as much as you can in every aspect, because production value can be high. But we did notice that there are very, very striking moments where you realize that there are corners cut, simply where you'll see a frame of a scene, and then like a frame or two later, instead of redrawing the character in another situation, it was just a snapshot of the head of that character from the other scene, kind of just put in there. And we noticed it because the quality, being that the image was then blown up or moved around, that the quality of the images started to kind of deteriorate.
It's something that you can do in comics. It's something that I've done in some of my comic books, but I think the problem with it is the fact that you always have to work at a very high resolution when you're scanning. I do my stuff digitally, but this is all, obviously it's pencil. But when you're scanning, you have to scan at a very high resolution, because when you want to do something like that and you take a person's face is in a very small part of this frame, you want to make that person's face the main subject of this next frame. When you blow it up, it gets really pixelated, so if you're working at a very high resolution, you won't have that problem. But also, that's something that it's used in comics, but it's kind of looked down upon. You want to see new art from frame to frame rather than just the same thing reused.
So, I mean, we did like the supernatural aspect, and I can't remember for the life of me. I think it was in the third book where it shows the morph.
I think
that was here it is.
Yes.
The morph from down, and I'll stream in bigger pictures of these, but like where the it morphs down into the owl, from the owl to the person. Really well done, and you can really tell what he's trying to convey and stuff like that. But in that same vein, the actual layout of the book is the lack of, like we were talking about, speech bubbles and you can kind of get yourself lost on a page pretty easily, being that it's just kind of like meow, 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 and then all of a sudden you cut across. And it's like you almost can't really decide if it's a two-way conversation who's saying what.
Exactly. It's very easy to do blocks like this with the words inside of it and everything. Usually that's kept for narration in comic books, and the whole point of speech bubbles is so you can tell who's talking and who's saying what, and it can get a bit confusing. And the layout, I'm not really a fan of having the big giant paragraphs of text on the pages. There's a few pages where that's pretty much all it is. And as far as making a comic book, specifically a comic book, I think it's a little bit out of place. This story probably could serve, it would probably benefit if he were to go in and make it more of a picture book. Like you'd have the pages of text and everything, and then every once in a while you'd have one of these panels or something like that drawn, because then he could take a lot of time on those specific panels to make it look really, really good, and he could still tell the story. But, it depends on who you are. I mean, people have told me that I should do that, and I've responded with, no, I want to make a comic book. So, yeah, if you want to make a comic book, you that's what you do. But everybody has their own, well, this is my style, this is how I want to do it, and that's fine. But it's still something that it has to look appealing, and I think that it definitely needs some work. I would like to see it in color, but obviously it's done in budget. So, yeah, there's definitely potential, and I think that if you can find the market for this and you can find your audience for it, it would probably do really well. I know of people who would probably enjoy this. It's the kind of thing that I would expect to see, like, a few pages in the back of Lowrider magazine or something. It seems like that kind of culture and everything would benefit from being introduced to that very well.
Yeah. And then I noticed that we were also talking about, like, the dark pages.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a sharp contrast. I think in the end it was supposed to be eye-catching, or maybe to set the setting of maybe night or something like that, which is okay, but I think overall it just detracted from the overall piece, because it's these really dark pencil lines on the dark black background, and so you kind of muddles together.
It loses it a bit.
Yeah, and then again we're kind of going back to the niche market, or that small group of folks that this could really kind of get to. The Tex-Mex and mix of English and Spanish. I know zero Spanish, so I kind of I get lost, and so I was kind of like, so I'd have to ask, like, oh, what does this mean, or how is this translated? And unfortunately, like, Frankie is not like Mexican Hispanic, so it translates a little bit different. So she'd kind of have to be like, well, it's kind of like this, and so I feel like maybe the storyline got kind of lost on me in that aspect, because I was having to ask around. Yeah. But overall, a supernatural, as far as, like I said, animorphs and stuff like that, it's a powerful story arc, and if you can just get it a little bit more consistent, and then work on just some of the other stuff, it could be a really good book. And I think maybe dialing back on that setting as heavy and make it a little bit more accessible, it could be a really good book.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see if there's any kind of, like, there's doesn't look like there's a website or anything for you guys to look at to see more of his stuff, so it's just Chris Navarro.
Yeah, I will. Like I said, I'll reach out to him now that the review's done, and if anybody has any other questions or anything, you can email me at strictlynerd@gmail.com, and I will forward those to him, because I don't know exactly his rules on as far as customer contact and stuff like that. So I'll be the medium and do that for you guys if you really want to take a look at it. Other than that, I mean, like I said, just let us know if there's something you're interested in. We'll pass that along. I want to thank Eric for sitting in with me here and talking about I knew that I needed someone with a little bit of the, I guess, in the industry knowledge, and just to kind of make sure that we hit all the good points as well as some of the weaker sides. And appreciate it, sir.
No problem.
So, of course, you can always follow us at Facebook. Facebook.com/strictlynerd. We are at, of course, YouTube.com/strictlynerd, or of course Twitter, just at strictlynerd. I thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.